States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have an A&R, 51 Dean Street, Dolores. Is that this?
Yeah.
So what we got?
You want me to come up here or stay back there?
You gotta say who you are first.
Oh, okay.
Are we recording over there? Are we recording upstairs?
Yeah, the cable TV.
So you can talk on that, Mike.
Yeah, talking about Mike.
All right, I'm Jonathan Burke. I live at 266 Beavers Road in town, but I own one of the lots over here on Dean Street. And so from the neighbor, I'm buying a piece of his land because the angle of the lot line that I had, I couldn't build what I wanted to build. It passed this 15-foot setback. So I'm purchasing more land from him and straightening out the lot. So the structure will fit better.
So basically what's on the screen is what it is now. And I think you're kind of drawing a line from like here to here roughly, right?
Yes, like say from here back to like that one.
Yeah.
So kinda-
A pie shape, yeah.
It looks like it meets everything, all the requirements, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's bad luck that you get a lot like that. You know, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, no matter how I designed the structure, it was very hard to fit, because that line there is the property line, and then you add the setbacks.
Yeah, the setbacks kills the project,
Yeah.
basically. So you have to buy more land from your neighbor to be able to build something properly built. You can do something weird. No, that's fine.
so, I mean, you meet everything.
Yeah.
So, good.
So do the vote.
Yep.
Well, I'll make a motion to accept A&R 51 for Dean Street, Dolores A. Day.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Drew King, aye.
Ed Longigan, aye.
David Dufresne, aye.
Rich Ihacker, aye.
Derek Bellis, aye. Motion passes. We sign.
Let's go second.
You can pass me the speaker or the mic. Meanwhile.
Jill entered the waiting room.
Oh, it's probably fun.
It's what?
It's my favorite.
So I don't really need that up anymore.
Four copies.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 1
where I live, there's a house being built, but there's like a whole bunch of land that was logged out. Is that gonna be a development, or is that just one house?
That's the thing. Yeah,
Yeah, they're just clearing.
Just clearing.
yeah.
Like 350 acres.
No.
Just a section.
Nothing that we know.
No, oh. I was just hoping it wasn't a big subdivision. Because I live there.
Nothing's been.
Now, the only
Yeah.
exciting thing around here has been you for now.
It's not solar, so.
Right, good, okay.
No.
Good, good thing.
You're
welcome.
Good luck.
Right.
Keep up the work.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Borrego Solar System, Cronin Road, detention basin plant. Are they online?
That's Dean Smith.
Dean Smith is online.
Excellent. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So I'm back before you. We have some proposals for some remediation at the basin for our Cronin Road site. And I can show you the plans. I was informed earlier that you wanted some hard copies, full size, but there wasn't time to get those to you. But hopefully you can see everything if I share my screen with you. And just to bring all of the board members up to date, when I appeared before, we had presented the results of some infiltration testing that we had done on the basin, which basically confirmed the rates that were used in the original stormwater calculations to calculate the drawdown in the basin. And it's a little slow in one area of the basin. So let me show you what we've got proposed. If you'll allow me to share my
Oh,
screen.
yeah, hold on a minute. I have to give you the power. Okay.
Okay. So hopefully you see a plan sheet. This is the erosion sedimentation control plan for the project. This is the basin that we're discussing here, a large basin at the base of the hillside. And then there's a smaller area here that was intended to be a temporary sedimentation basin during construction that was also holding some water. So what we've got proposed in this case is in the area where the infiltration was slow, we want to propose an infiltration trench, which I'll show you the details of that in a minute. But it's this area near the control structure that seemed to be problematic. So this will be offset from the toe of the slope to stay away from the liner that is installed over this berm on the east side of the basin. And it will be, the top elevation will be slightly lower than the area around it. So the drainage will be free to flow into this infiltration trench, which will assist it to perk into the ground and get down to the water table. We are also proposing to scarify the bottom of the basin, so to rig this surface so that there's more, a freer area to absorb the stormwaters there as well. And then we want to regrade this area that's south of the basin to remove that temporary sedimentation basin, which is one of the areas where the board members had seen evidence of some ponding that was lingering. So the next sheet here shows the detail of the infiltration trench. And it's going to be 3 feet wide. And as I mentioned, it'll have a lower top elevation in the center section, some larger stone on the top, and then a base of washed crushed stone that will assist in the infiltration of waters through that area. I did include another sheet, but it's basically just repeating those same details on another sheet. So that's basically what we have proposed. I did consult with SW Cole, the geotechnical firm that did the testing in the basin for us, and they believe that this will correct any ponding of water and assist with a basin in drawing down within the allotted time period. So I know that our construction crews are asking for sign-offs on their building permit. So hopefully with this proposal, we can go ahead and move forward with that part of the project. I do understand that there were some plantings that needed to be inspected and whatnot, so that there does need to be another site inspection out there. But I'm here to answer any questions that the board members might have about what we have proposed or any of the testing that's been done previously.
So Joyce, you're our expert on this area.
Well, so I because it's far away from the screen, how deep is that infiltration trench?
It is 3 feet deep. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. Yes, it's actually a little less than 3 feet, so that we have to maintain 2 feet above the estimated high season water table. So it's 2 feet 9 inches deep.
And then what is the estimated seasonal high water?
It's another 2 feet below that. This
Okay.
would be right at 2 feet above the seasonal high water.
And then
And it was lower than that in other locations, but that's the highest elevation that was observed.
so I know the basin was holding water longer, and I'm assuming that scarifying it is going to probably resolve much of the problem, I'm hoping. But I also know that my directions are off. So on the end, looking at the plans, towards the bottom of the plan,
Mhm.
that section of the basin may have been put in a wetland. Like there was like a little finger that came out from the wetland, and there was, anyway, the long of the skinny is that I'm assuming that there's more ponding of water down there. How will,
Down here.
yeah, and I'm not really sure if anybody, did we see that during site visits? Did you, when you guys went out, did you note that that's where the water was? I guess ultimately, you know, if the goal is to just make sure we don't have water floating on the top for longer than 72 hours, is the location of this new infiltration trench the best spot?
Okay, the reason that I put it where I've got it shown on the plan is because that was the area that had the most evidence of longer term ponding.
Okay,
The basin was dry when I was there. I walked the site myself 2 different occasions. And this had the most water staining right here near the control structure.
okay.
So that, not having observed where the ponding was on site personally, that had the most evidence of standing water that had been in that location. I mean, we can do something further to the south in the basin,
Yeah, I'm not,
if you think that's
Joyce, I
necessary.
actually think
or-
you're right, because it was down more towards the bottom of that basin where you were saying.
Okay.
It wasn't so far up in the middle.
well, you know, at one
Okay.
point.
It seemed like it was deeper at the other end.
Yeah, yeah.
It could have, you know, and that also just could have been like, you know, you can't have perfect elevations on something like that, so it could be, you know, even if it's like 1/8 of an inch off, the water's gonna go to that that spot. So, but I know that, like, this is a long history going back many years, when Dave was on this project. And then
Right.
there was like a thing that showed up on the plan. Anyway, so it could be hydric soils towards that end. And even if you did something, water wouldn't infiltrate anyway because the soils are so tight. So no matter what you do, it's not really gonna, I think what you have is probably the better option.
Okay.
Where,
What's his name?
Dean?
Dean,
Yes,
did you take pictures when you visit the site?
I did not take any photos when I was there because the basin was just perfectly dry. There wasn't really anything that I thought added information. I can probably get some photos from our construction crews that I could provide for the board.
I mean, I can dig up
I have
photos.
Yeah.
You want it?
Well, I can,
You can,
So
you probably
Dean,
have it.
I should introduce myself. My name is Joyce and I'm from the Conservation Commission.
Mhm.
And there was a point after the basin had been finished and the site was pretty much operational that we had done, taken pictures of the basin, and it had been like over a week, and there was still significant water in the basin. Not just
Okay.
not just pools, but the bottom of the basin was covered by, I don't know, what would you say, Derek? Like 50% of it had pockets of.
Oh, yeah.
It was, and
There
that
were
was hap-
tadpoles living in it.
Yeah, there were
there were
tadpoles
tadpoles living.
in
Anyway,
there.
it was over a week when we took
Okay.
those pictures, and so scarifying, I'm hoping, would get rid of the fines that would be clogging and preventing it from
Mhm.
infiltrating.
Right, that we see that in a lot of cases after construction when silt has, been washed down into the basin.
But I
So,
I
go
thought
ahead.
I thought that already happened. Was it not Graves? Who was the construction firm on site?
Bates.
Bates, yeah, there we go.
Yes.
I knew it was an A and a short word. So that was on the punch list for Bates. I think he did that. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he skipped it and we just thought he did.
Okay, well, we'll see. It was relatively dry when I was out there. Maybe whatever major problem you were seeing back then that was occurring has been largely addressed by things that they've done in the past.
We also had a pretty serious drought for a while
Yeah,
too,
for-
so that could have
That's
Yeah,
just,
that's why you haven't seen any water.
Well, sure. Did you go out after a rain?
I haven't had the opportunity to be out there
Okay, yeah.
after the rain.
All right. So the thing is that when we went out to take pictures, that was after everybody had cleared out. Everything was done, including the plantings. So that's where we're coming from. It's, so maybe going back and discovering, maybe Bates never did that. It wouldn't be surprising. I know that the site super
that it was all set and ready to go.
I know the
and-
site super was a little bit frustrated. Both
Yeah.
Charlie and the site super were a little frustrated with, like, the punch list, the end of
Yeah.
the project punch list, so.
We're just looking for some pictures to show you
Yeah.
of what we seen when it was, wet in that area still.
oh, there we go.
There you
Oh,
go.
is that it?
Okay.
Yep,
Oh,
Yeah, that's it.
That's what I was looking for.
see, that's the end we were talking about.
It's pretty full though.
The whole thing is pretty full. That's
Yeah.
after a week.
Click on them to open it up.
Here, let me,
You can look that up.
I'll share.
Do you need me to stop sharing?
Yeah, I got it. Okay, let me
Okay.
share. I just need my screen. All right, so, oops,
Just click on them.
yeah. So that was one photo. So that's the bottom end of it, right? And then
Yeah,
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 that's, yeah.
that's.
Yeah,
the northern end.
But this picture is after a week.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you-
so
what was
that's
the-
after a week's time.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't look very deep, but there are, obviously, it's still remaining.
But it's very, it's full, you know,
Well, it's, you
Wall to
know,
wall
there's no
full.
dry spots in the basin at this point. It's all reflection. What's the date on the
Did you
picture?
get a photo of the other spot?
Yeah.
Do you know the date on the?
I think this was September.
And it's in September, okay.
Let me see. No, yeah, it came from Derek on September 13th, so I think it was somewhere around there.
Well, anyway, I mean,
Yeah.
moving forward, scarifying is really one of the best things that they can do. Removing any fines, if there's anything. I mean, part of the other problem is that all of, you know, the riprap that's just up gradient from the basin had never really been cleared of all the fines from construction. So I'm sure that after a year's worth of rains and winter, et cetera, I'm hoping that most of that has cleared out, and then when you go and you're gonna remove the fines too?
I can instruct them to do that, yes.
I would probably, I
They
mean,
should remove any material that appears to be blocking the infiltration stormwater.
and then maybe be clear about where they store it, that it needs to be in a place that it, or just take it off site completely. Just, you know, if they store it somewhere that it ends up back into the basin, that would be unfortunate.
Right, and you don't want it washing downhill into the wetland area either, so I'll have them export it from the site, if those materials are present.
Yeah,
So
I
there's
can't
nothing
imagine that
there.
they're not.
There's probably some, it might be that they worked through that area,
This
you know,
here.
consistently, and the top of the soil got, you know, very densely compacted, so raking will alleviate some of that as well.
So when you do that,
Okay.
when do you plan on doing it? And would you be able to, it's still early enough to seed it, right?
Yeah, the fall is an okay time to seed, so it could be reseeded following that.
Because the other issue is that if it's not, I mean, right now, I don't know what it looks like right now, but we don't want, you know, the basin fines to end up in the wetlands or the riverfront area, which is ultimately where it's gonna end up.
There really isn't an outlet except the control structure.
Oh,
And
right.
the bleeder on that is, I'd have to look at the detail, but it's set up from the bottom of the basin. So there's no free discharge from the bottom of the basin.
Oh, I forgot
It's
about
all
that.
counting, yeah, it's counting on the infiltration.
So, Peter, the bottom of the infiltration trench, where is that in relation to the bottom of the basin? Are they at the same level?
In relation to the elevation of the bottom of the basin, it's 2 feet 9 inches below the bottom. So it'll be
Oh, it's below the
excavated.
bottom of the basin.
Oh,
Yeah, but doesn't the
yeah,
basin
it'll be
have
excavated.
some sort of substructure to it? Doesn't the basin have something? I mean, you have the bottom of the basin, but isn't there more below that basin then?
It's just structural fill below that. Some of it would be native, but they had to fill to construct the basin. So it would be fill materials that were brought in.
So is this going below that fill material, or is it still within it?
I don't think any of the existing elevations were that low. So it will still be above the native soils, I believe.
Okay.
Or still below the fill material, I should say.
Okay. So this infiltration trench would also require maintenance? right? I mean, it's gonna have to be
It
cleaned
would
out.
need to be maintained on a fairly infrequent basis, but just like the inspections that are done on the stormwater basin itself, if there's evidence of siltation or anything, that they would need to remove those materials. And that, you know, that might be evidenced if sometime farther out in the future, there is some remaining ponding that reoccurs after time, if it does silt in. So they may have to remove materials from the top of that trench at some time in the future also.
Can that trench clog up where you can't, I mean, you remove stuff from the top and it's still not draining?
It can over time, but as Joyce was pointing out, there's been a significant amount of time for, you know, the materials that can wash down off of that slope to wash down into the basin. So after that initial period is behind, I wouldn't imagine that there will be a lot of siltation into the basin itself.
So in your opinion, Joyce, the infiltration basin, where it's gonna be located, and the scarifying should go a long way to fixing this problem?
We hope. It is the first and best step to take, for sure.
Okay.
It's a, you know, because I frankly, I'm not really sure if it was done the way it probably should have been, and we had that whole winter, yeah.
So what if we wait on the trench and just do the scarifying and the cleaning out and see if the basin works?
I can talk to our construction people about that. They may be concerned about having to mobilize a contractor more than once to come out and do the work, but certainly if that's the board's desire,
Well,
they
why
can
wouldn't
speak
we?
with them about that.
Why wouldn't we want the infiltration basin?
No, the trench, infiltration trench,
Yeah, why wouldn't we want that?
because it's another point of failure, it's something they gotta maintain. I mean, the basin should, it's similar to what we're dealing with on Beaman, the basin should work without it.
It should, but.
Right.
Yeah, but they're not
It wasn't.
draining the water off the
No, it's
difference
different.
between Beaman
Yeah.
is they want to be able to release the water and control it as they need, versus this is just giving it an
I
avenue
agree, this
to
is a
drain.
better, and maybe we should
Yeah.
Giving it
propose
an
this to
Yeah, we
Beaman.
probably should, actually. but-
This is actually giving it an extra spot.
Yeah, I
Like, it's like a
understand.
reservoir, ultimately, that's filled with riprap and stone. It's
Okay.
mostly stone, right? So,
It is, yes. So there would be voids within that trench that could store stormwater. So it can take some of the excess that's being captured in the basin and that provide some underground storage for that at the same time that it's promoting infiltration into the ground.
In the minimum between groundwater and this basin, we have that minimum.
Yes.
right, there's
Because
the 2 feet,
it's, you got 2 feet between them.
right.
So it's not like we're opening up and putting it right into groundwater. They still have the
Correct.
minimum distance.
Well, that was kind of my question, like, where is the bottom of this trench compared to the structure of the basin?
Well,
It's
they
2
built
feet
the
below.
trench up.
Yeah, I don't care, you're telling me the height, I want to know, so here's the top of that trench, here's the bottom, where's the bottom of the basin itself?
It's above
It's
it.
at the top of the trench.
It's the top of the
No, no,
trench.
no, when they built the basin,
That's the bottom.
they had to fill, this is the top of the basin, a lot of this is
You
filled,
mean the
right?
existing elevation before it was constructed? Is that
I
what you're
think,
asking?
yeah, I think that's what you're asking for, right? What?
So they dug down, and then they
Yes.
filled it, and now they have a top.
They didn't really dig much. They filled the lower portions. This was just like a straight slope down towards the wetland. So they built up the eastern side to create the berm that's there. That's where the
Okay.
majority of the fill is.
Are you asking, Rich, how far below the bottom of the existing basin is the infiltration trench?
Well, so here's the original
Okay.
earth, right? So there's some dimension here that is fill, right? This is the top of the basin where the grass is, and there's some amount of stuff in here, right? So I want to know the trench goes in here somewhere, right? 2 feet. It's 9 inches. I wanted to know what this distance was.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if you'll be able to see this.
Yeah, you can see. Right there.
Hold it still.
Okay,
I'm trying
so, pull it a little bit to your left, okay?
I want to
So-
know what this
What-
distance is. So you got this trench, right? And then somewhere
Yeah.
is the bottom where the original earth was.
Okay,
Where is it sitting there?
let me take
It's
a look
above- you
at
just
the
made the original elevation.
geotechnical report.
The original elevation. You already,
Yeah, he's asking.
you're
how-
asking for the original
What's the
elevation.
distance above the
Well, but-
existing elevation, for the pre-construction elevation?
Elevation.
So in other words, does this trench punch a hole through the basin to the bottom of the original earth?
Right, yeah,
Or is
no,
it
okay,
up
yeah.
a little bit.
I'm looking right now, there was a test pit in that area.
So Rich, are you asking,
Do you guys have any old plans? What are those things? That's your A&R?
yeah,
Ah.
This is your original.
You know what, I have these plans under file.
So we can stand here.
Okay.
Oh, so this
It looks
distance
like
may have only been like
In
2
the area
inches.
where that's proposed,
Then this is a
that-
2-foot thing.
there was not a significant amount of fill. The contours, the original contours, I see the 930,
Rich?
well,
Okay. All right.
I see the 830, excuse me, contour on the plan. That is, and that, the bottom of the basin is 831. So the bottom of the trench that I have proposed would be 2 feet 9 inches below 831. So it will be cutting into the original in situ soils.
Oh, it's, okay, so it's going into the original land, earth.
Yes,
Okay, that, all right.
By at least a foot?
yes, it's by more like 2 feet below the original earth surface.
Oh, so the whole thing essentially is going into,
Yeah, except for that very top layer with the larger stone.
all right,
So
so,
it's truly like, it's bypassing the basin because it's not like it's draining into the basin. It is going below the whole thing
right.
into the earth.
Right.
So now we gotta know.
It's going to penetrate
What was the test pit?
the fill materials
What
that
did
were
the
brought
test pit
in
get for a height
during the
level?
construction, yes.
He's saying it's this bottom 2 feet.
Well, it's gonna be over, a little over a foot down, but
And you're saying the bottom of the trench is how far above groundwater?
2 feet.
2 feet,
Okay.
2 feet above the highest groundwater that was observed.
2 feet here.
Okay.
yeah, sounds reasonable.
Yeah. So you've got groundwater, you've got 2 feet, you got the bottom of the trench, and then somewhere in here is where the bottom of the basin really is, right?
So here's the thing,
Well,
even,
that doesn't make sense because your groundwater would have to bend below 3 feet
From the bottom.
from the test pit. In your test pit.
It was much more than that. It was between 4 and in some of the test pits, they didn't even observe water down to 11 or 12 feet. So it varies through that area. The higher elevation that was observed must have had some, some silty materials or something that were sort of perching the water table in that location. It's probably likely much more than 2 feet, but I wanted to maintain a minimum of 2 feet. So that's why I specified the depth that I have on the plan.
there's a lot of ledge there, there's pockets that would suck the water in. It's just all ledge there. So the water isn't really, it's perched on the ledge or it's finding its way through it.
Yeah.
So here's the other point of that. The concern about the 2 feet of separation, there's no outlet here. It's an
Right.
infiltration basin.
Yeah.
So even if we're intercepting high groundwater for a month or two in the spring, or a month in the spring, it's not a big deal. The basin wouldn't drain, maybe in that spot. But we're not releasing it because there's that catch basin that has, it separates any solids if there exists, and that has to fill up before it flows out of the basin.
Right.
So we're not in the same situation as we are up on Beaman Road at all. This is actually, you know, it would solve the problem, and in the situation where it's not solving the problem because it would intercept high groundwater, it's not going to be a problem. And it certainly would do it before mosquitoes show up. So by the time summer comes along, it's not, you know what I mean? It's, I don't think it's a bad idea.
Is there any danger that water would come up through that trench if it got really high?
No,
Okay.
no. Like high groundwater will level off completely. It levels.
But this would be an easy path up. That's-
Yeah, it would, but it's not gonna happen. It doesn't work that way. It's not like a geyser.
Famous last one. There were geysers in Chicago on Sunday, right? That were shooting out the
It's not a
storm
geyser, it just, yeah, exactly.
like Old Faithful.
Well, if it does turn into a geyser, we could charge admission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The
Big
Cronin
money.
Road geyser. There we go.
Show up on Cronin Road Solar Project.
Charge your phone for free.
So
All right, well-
when are you planning on starting the work?
Well, I'll have to talk to our construction people about that, but I think they want to get it done as quickly as possible. They just wanted to get it in front of the board and, you know, be certain that the planning board and the conservation commission were on board with what we have proposed here. So I will let them know tomorrow that you're in favor of these remedial measures, and I can,
Well,
We
hold
haven't
on
taken
now.
a
We
vote.
never- We never said we were in favor of it yet.
well,
I know, I'm jumping
We
the
talked
gun just by
about it, we
asking.
didn't say we liked it.
So I just have one more question. Who's doing the work?
I don't know that either, but Bates is a likely candidate. But if you have an aversion to that, you know, thinking that something wasn't done properly in the past, I can point that out to the
Yeah.
construction people.
Whoever works for you, all I'm gonna say is that the scarification was supposed to have happened at the end of the
Okay.
project before, and Bates was the one who was in control. So whether or not he did it,
Okay.
I would check in with Michael Schleifer.
I will impress that on Mike, definitely.
And whoever Mike wants to use is totally up to him, but, you know, my outstanding concern is all of that should have been done, and supposedly was. It was on the punch list.
Yeah.
So,
It may have been done after those photos were taken. I'm not sure what
Yeah.
the sequence of everything is, because.
No, they were pretty much
as you
out of
mentioned,
there.
They were out of
Dave
there.
was the engineer.
Yeah, that was.
They-
Dave was the engineer, so.
Yeah.
I wasn't very close to the project during
yeah,
that time.
it is for sure, they were already out of there. That was one of the things. They
Yeah, they
were,
were done and they wanted to hand it over.
yeah, they
Yeah.
were done.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll make sure that they're aware of that and that it needs to be done properly, and any silted materials need to be exported from the site, you know, not spread uphill from it or
Oh, no.
anywhere that it would be
And
washed
not in the
out
wetlands.
off of the site. One last thing, since I'm on, I don't know if you can see my whole name there, but it says Dean Smith, New Leaf Energy. And if the board isn't aware of it yet, Borrego's development company has been spun off into a standalone company.
Ah,
We're now called New Leaf Energy. Our construction division is still Borrego. So I am finishing out the projects that we had, but the development side. So if you see new applications from our direction, they'll come from New Leaf Energy. So just so that you're aware of that change.
So you're gonna send the contact information and everything, so we have that?
Sure, yes. I mean, it's the same as it was, except it's New Leaf Energy instead of BorregoSolar.com. We're at the same address.
In
and,
case of an emergency, somebody to call,
Well, they're development,
They're just
Mike's-
development.
Mike and Charlie are
and you
still
get through the
Borrego.
process.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I'm not sure who the project owner is in this case, but the emergency contacts would still remain the same. Our development side wouldn't have been an emergency contact.
The reason why I ask is because last year we had an issue with it, the snow, it wasn't being plowed,
Okay.
and you gotta keep it plowed for emergency vehicles.
Mhm. Okay.
By law.
That, I don't know if if Borrego's O&M division are the ones that take care of this, but I can find out and make sure that you have the appropriate emergency contacts. I think that the project signage at the entrance does include the 24-hour contact numbers.
It probably-
That's if that's
So,
correct.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
believe they're posted there, so, but I can make sure that the board and the Conservation Commission are both aware of who the emergency contacts are for the site.
Good.
thank you.
All right,
It
so,
seems like a reasonable solution.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's gotta be added to the O&M, and then we want to do like a final inspection, right? When it's
Yes,
done.
yes, yes,
And we
we do.
do want to make sure that it's draining. And that's
Assuming
right.
we get water, assuming we get rain.
Yeah. Well, once this is done, then we'd want a period of time,
Right,
right, for it to rain and have it drain, make sure it works.
right.
Okay, so I will let Mike Schliefer and Charlie Barbanti are still the construction side representatives, so I'll let them know that that's the board's desire.
So I think we're good with this,
Yeah,
just we are gonna want that time period. We're not saying it's a final and you're good to go and you're all done. We're saying that you can proceed with this, correct?
yes.
Yeah,
Everybody?
yeah, yeah.
So you can proceed with this, but it's not the final. We're gonna do our inspection later on, just to make sure everything's good.
Yeah, we do want to make sure it works.
But if it does
I will.
work, then we're good.
If it does work,
If it does
then we're
work,
good.
then we're good.
Right.
But if it doesn't, then we're
Okay.
back to some drawing board.
Right.
Okay, so
Okay,
I'll make a motion to accept the erosion and sedimentation control plan as proposed by Borrego.
Second,
All in favor?
Drew King, aye.
Ed Longigan, aye.
David Dufresne, aye?
Rich Ihacker, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
thank you for your time this evening.
Accepted.
Any questions, Dean? Are you good? You know what we want? And
I know what you want.
Okay.
You're okaying the remediation steps that I'm proposing. You want some revised O&M protocol to make sure that it's maintained properly, and you want the opportunity to inspect it after it's constructed.
Yeah,
Yes.
inspect and
Yes.
verify, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
All right.
good.
Again, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right?
That went pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we email these plans to Angelitas?
It's different though, because they don't have an infiltration basin and this is.
And that's a detention basin.
Okay. We'll consider that in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Just hope there's no future for solar. Okay. We're gonna discuss this decision for special permit number 300. This is for Donna.
Scotcherless.
What do we need to discuss? We have the vote?
Right,
The
we
hearing's
closed,
closed.
we closed the hearing, and how are we gonna vote, or what are we thinking?
Did she show up? Did she say something?
No, any contact from her?
Nothing. Okay.
So she gave up? Basically?
As far as,
Well, it doesn't.
It's not for us to say. I don't
doesn't
know.
sound like she's pursuing it, so yeah, I assume she's
So the
giving
only
up.
thing we can do is deny it because
Yeah.
she hasn't had anything that's substantial that can be worked.
No. Nothing.
So.
No plans, no nothing.
Yeah, there's
No.
nothing there, and, yeah, I think what she needs to do is take a look at what she's actually gonna do, something that meets within the guidance of our bylaws, and work within that, you know, with her contractor. Have plans. Right now, got nothing, and we've been kicking this can down the road for a long time.
Months and
Can't do it
months.
no more.
So basically, we're gonna stop entertaining
Right,
and not really denying the project, but just closing it, right?
right.
Well,
Well, no,
we are denying the
It's a
special
denial.
permit, but we
Right.
deny it without prejudice, and then she can come back at any time when she has, you know, a good project and.
Sounds good.
But it doesn't need to be voted on yet. You can do it at the next meeting, so it can be written up the right way,
so,
and then.
so it's ready to go when we vote.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to.
It would be based on, because failure to provide plans,
Just a little check.
Failure to
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah.
Do-
to
so
progress the project, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't meet bylaw, because it didn't meet the zoning requirements, so.
And we'll run it by legal before we.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you can vote as late as the 14th. So as much time as you need up until the 14th, that's
Okay.
good. We have,
You run
it's
it
the
off.
19th, but.
Thank you, Joyce,
Oh, you're welcome.
as always.
I think that if there's
Very
anything
helpful.
here that I can contribute to now.
You don't wanna hear us vote on bills and pay and.
Well, no, she might wanna hang out for permit eyes.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any on that yet? The
Any?
permitting software?
Have I gotten any?
Any intake on that?
Or
Have you
any
looked
input?
at it?
have you looked at it?
Well, I was on the meeting, on the call, but I haven't done anything after that.
We're about to discuss about that meeting right now.
Okay, I'll check it. I'll listen into that one.
So we're good with the special permit then?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so, yeah. So we get the decision just drafted, ready to go, we vote, and it's all said and done.
So we're discussing now, Primarize online permitted. I think it was a great meeting,
Yep.
very informative. Like I said in the meeting, I did use it as a user in the background. It worked fine. I can see a lot of work on implementing it, especially on your side, and a little bit on your side.
Well, you know, I'm assuming that planning and building would start off and then conservation would go in later, you know, would be an additional module.
I think planning and the building commissioner are the first two ones to start using it. Because when I use it, it was nothing to do with the planning board, it was directly to the building inspector. You know.
Right.
So it could be go both ways. In my case, I was asking for a permit to finish an office. So it's straightforward. I actually went there, I talked to the lady, she gave me all the papers, and then at the end she said, hey, we have Primarize. So I took the papers, and on the papers, and I compared one to one. You know, fill it by hand or fill it on the computer. And there was some discrepancy between the paper and the online, but I am assuming that that's gonna happen too, once we go through the process and say, well, we don't need this. Oh, yeah, we should put this. You know, like you were saying about the contact and all that. There's gonna be homework to do, because whatever we have now for the people to ask for a permit or come to the planning board, it's gonna be different. Okay?
And when you start using a program like that, you could have Jill be the initial user so that she would catch any problems versus you being a guinea pig, the first client.
Yeah.
She can do it. When she finds an error, then that can be fixed. And going that way
Yeah,
instead of
and I
just
can
jumping
see,
on.
I can see that we even put a computer there for the regular person who comes and, hey, I wanna do this permit, yeah, sit down over there, do it.
See, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, and then if they have problems, they're right there.
They are right there.
Yeah.
So we can, I,
I mean, that is like the future.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really liked about this process, which differs from the current process, the current process, the town clerk receives a pile of paperwork. It's not her responsibility to review it, but at that point, it's time-stamped. And the problem with that is that I'm sure that over 50% of the time, the application is incomplete. And what's happening is that the clock is starting as soon as Lori has received, bad habit, has received it, right? But it should start once
When it's-
100% of the application has been received.
yes, because when I filled it in, there was an option, not an option, but there was an option to, keep saying an option. There was a way to upload the plans. So
Right.
if I just submit it, but they don't have plans, what's gonna happen? Hey, you gotta put some plans over there.
So that's what the guy said during the meeting. He said that even if you have all of those things checked off,
The
somebody
clock
has
doesn't
to go
start.
through and review it to make sure that they are plans, that they are the things that are required. And then it can get released to the town clerk, who then can timestamp it.
Timestamp it,
So
yeah.
it's the town clerk's role to timestamp it, and that's when the clock starts. So if they don't have all the information, it can sit there for 7 months and the clock won't start.
Yeah.
And that is something that we would have saved ourselves the hassle a million times over in the past with all of that information outstanding from some of our bigger applicants.
So, essentially then the town clerk's stamp becomes an electronic stamp, right? Like an
It sounds
electronic
like
signature?
that's the way it is, it's an electronic stamp, and that they would go in, I mean,
It's the approval of the submission. You know,
Right.
Because I
Yeah,
can.
right now,
I can submit
she
it.
literally stamps
Yes.
it.
Yeah,
Now
I can
would
submit
be-
it, but if it's not ready, they're not gonna do anything or start any process. You know, once I check all the boxes, they'll say, okay, now you're good, boom, starts.
Right.
I like all the checks and balances with the software, because again, you're saying the timestamp and everything, but it doesn't do us any good if, like, right now, we're dealing with paperwork and we're chasing down things, we're finding out back taxes are paid, they're good with them, there's, you know, all the documents are being submitted, and we just don't know. You know, if they're just being dropped off all in one lump sum, we just don't know. This puts all the checks and balances on them, and it will not let them progress unless they do what they need to do. And if there's a tax, the property is in tax title, they have to pay that tax title up before they can even proceed. That has to be released. This would save us all so much more time of having to chase these things down. And I know Jill's thinking like, oh my God, the work I'm gonna have to do, but this is actually gonna take a lot of that work off your plate.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to do all that stuff anymore. And we're not sitting there like throwing questions at you. Did you do this? Did you do that? No, it's, in order to even do it, they had to get it all done, and it's on them. So,
It is also on the planning board, and this is, I'm just gonna say this. The planning board, and it can't be Jill's job, needs to go in and look at those documents to make sure that they are the ones that need to be in. She could be the gatekeeper and say, yeah, they submitted something under this folder, but it's only half finished. You guys need to, you know, need to go in and like, there needs to be some sort of process, and you guys need to figure out who's gonna go in and check to make sure all those documents are before it's released to,
Yes.
Yeah.
the town clerk.
But
So
that's,
that's-
the good thing is,
It's
we don't have
online.
to come in and look at plans, right? We can just get on and look at what's
You
been
can do it
submitted.
anywhere.
Yeah.
You can have as many logons as you want to do it. Now, I know we're all looking at Permitize because that was one of the things that you're familiar with. And also BJ was very comfortable with Permitize. Well, Jim sent me, Jim Ferrara sent me another software, because they're not the only ones that do this, is QDS, Point.
Yeah.
But that also has the budgeting involved. And instead of having two separate softwares, because we still have to get an accounting software to deal with other issues. Okay, so we'd have two separate softwares. This QDS QDS Point software that he sent does the whole accounting part too. So it would be doing the same thing with the permitting. They do all the permitting, but it's also an accounting software for the rest of the departments too. So everything talks together. Where Permitize said, well, we can do that, but a lot of that's proprietary and we have to get permission and we'd have to build towards it to be able to talk to that. And it's gonna
Right, there's
cost.
uploading and downloading and.
Yeah, and it's
so-
gonna cost. Where this other one's a full software that covers it all. But I don't know how user-friendly it is. Jim's trying to get in contact with them to come and do a meeting with us and show us what the software is.
Demo, yeah.
Yeah, demo, and have the other departments also. So our finance departments like Dawn and everybody, they can come in and see if it actually does what they need too. So that might be an option too. But if it doesn't really do the permitting part,
Yeah.
we're sacrificing that, we might have to use the two.
Yeah.
You know,
So
because-
I think we all agree that we need some sort of software
We do.
Yeah.
to keep up, you know, with everything. So,
The good thing about it is between this and the new software, Jim has enough information to be able to file for the grant.
Right.
Because he knows he has those,
Oh,
and that was the big timeline, is we need to get in for these grants before everybody else, snatches them up. And as long as we have a ballpark figure of what we need for an amount, then he can submit to the grant saying, this is what we need.
Okay.
so I'm not really clear how, why do we need the accounting software to tie into our, let's say I'm just gonna say the building department and the planning board. Like, how does that work? Or why does it happen? Why do we need it to
Well, I would
happen?
think like a tax lien would be in the accounting software. So you'd want to get that information to the permitting software, so it would flag it right away. So if they have to do like an upload, download thing once a night, okay. But if they're all part of the same package, then you don't have to do that. They're all
Right,
reading
and
the
we're
same
being
database.
charged, we'd be charged the amount of downloads, how frequently the downloads are being done. So we're getting charged more. So if they did it quarterly downloads, which you're not getting accurate, or weekly,
Yeah.
we get to pay more for weekly. But if we were gonna do like nightly, which the bigger towns obviously do,
Yeah.
we wouldn't need to do that. But it's gonna cost us more money to do that. So
I
if
see.
you have one software that's already communicating with each other,
Yeah,
they already know what's going on. We don't have to do that.
even fees, when you pay a fee, so if, that was a little sketchy with Permit Eyes too, because I think, so if you pay your building permit fee, it should dump right into the accounting system under the planning board or building department line item, right? Same with conservation. They have to just do a fee, it would go right in. So with Permit Eyes, I think there was a process
There was a third party
to make it go
involved.
in.
So we
yeah.
have to get with a third party to be able to accept the fees, which would send it to the accounting department.
Yeah,
So it's like.
so that's a little sketchy.
Yeah, okay, yep.
So,
An extra step, no, you don't want that.
yeah.
When you're messing with money. But again, we're trying to figure out what's best for our town and see how the communication can work the best.
Yeah.
This new software, just because it all talks together, doesn't mean it's the best thing for our people to do. Because the building department, BJ might hate it because it's not user-friendly. You know, where Permit Eyes is very user-friendly, but we just don't know.
And we want the general public to be.
We want them to
happy with
use it.
Because they won't,
Yeah.
yeah, they won't use it if it's hard to use,
No.
right?
Right.
If it's difficult or a pain in the butt. They'll just, people will complain and they won't use it.
What I like about the Permit Eyes is too, because again, conservation will go out there with a tablet, or building, BJ can be out there with their tablet, make changes and approve and say, yep, and then send the update when you get into the office.
Mhm.
You know, she can do her checklist right there out in the field, do everything she needs to do. She gets back to the office and she does her upload, and the building permit's updated.
Nice, okay. Yeah, I mean, there,
Makes sense.
it had a lot going on. I mean, it was a sophisticated piece of software. It looked like a lot of tailoring needed to be done to it, so that certainly would add to the cost.
Yep.
So depending
Yeah,
on
but,
how much
but
you
he,
wanted
I
to
thought the
customize
way
it.
I understood it was that was all included in that $5,000 or right around in there. The tailoring and everything was all included in
I
there.
mean,
Well,
like,
to
Or
a
the
point, but if we were
$10,000.
adding things on to
Yes,
it,
yes,
that's.
yes.
Yeah, they'll
oh, I
be, yeah.
thought the estimate was $35,000.
That was for 3 modules, three modules,
Building, planning,
and conservation.
so if you take conservation out, it wouldn't, building and planning are more complicated by a long
But the
shot.
best part is that they, said no more paper.
Yeah.
That- And being able to access everything in one place instead of going through a filing cabinet, it's got to be.
I know, yeah.
So much better.
And everything's timestamped too,
Yeah.
so we don't have to track that. And the other thing is, that I really liked about it, is it tells us how much time we have left.
Yep.
So it keeps track of all these
Oh,
deadlines.
that's good.
So you see the
So-
clock ticking the whole time.
So you see it
Yes.
ticking. So
Is
it
that
helps
your
Jill a lot, because
calendar?
Jill's not sitting there going through and saying, oh, geez, you got
25 days.
14 days left. You know, we see it, and it's giving us warnings, hey, you got 14 days left before this
Yeah,
expires,
so-
or this deadline needs to be done.
And that works on both sides, because as a client, you get 2 years for a permit. And if you let it go, you don't
That's
get an
right.
extension.
Yeah.
Building permit applications too, 30 days, they would know, when we would know when they submitted it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to, oh, well, they mailed it this day, or.
Huh.
And,
Okay.
and the automatic
So I hope
letters
we can
for
get a demo
renewals
soon.
of
Yeah,
permits.
he's trying to set up a demo real soon. He did say he's putting in for the grant, so he has enough information for that, so that hopefully we can get.
I downloaded the video if you want me to put it on Facebook.
As far as,
No, because it's not really an external, it's gotta be our
It's still
decision. It's
under
not like a-
discussion, yeah. I would-
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll just save it with the
Yeah.
others.
so yeah, you
Okay.
know, hopefully he can get in here and we all can sit down and have a big meeting and see what the next demo is and
Yeah.
whatever works best. But it really matters with BJ, because if BJ sits there and, what I told Jim is, it can be really great and everything, it sounds great, but if it's not user-friendly and people are not gonna use it somebody like BJ, who's out there using this stuff all the time.
She has used both.
Maybe- Has she said anything about the other one? She didn't like
Oh,
it?
oh, really?
Yeah.
So, you know,
Well,
this, one of the things is that this guy kept on talking about Munis, and I heard from Rachel, who used to be the assessor, in the assessor's office. She was like, Munis is a nightmare.
Oh, is that what they're using in Southbridge?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not sure why, but it's just,
Yeah,
Isn't that the most expensive one too, that's out there?
it's okay.
for
Accounting
municipal
software.
software, yeah, I
Yeah.
think.
But Jim also said that something like this QDS, they serve more smaller towns.
Yeah.
Where I think Munis and Vadar are like Springfield, Holyoke,
Well, Southbridge
Southbridge.
is sizable, yeah.
Southbridge is pretty big. I mean, they're
It's like
triple.
20,000.
Yeah, triple or more, right? Quadruple our size. So I think this QDS might be a better fit overall.
Well,
We'll
let's
see.
look at them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, take a look at them
Well,
all.
I'm just talking in terms of they serve a smaller smaller town.
Or even if we set a benchmark of pricing, then we can do the other part, which is the grant. Which is, I think, is the most important. Because even if we choose, if we look at 20, but if we don't get the grant,
Doesn't matter,
Well,
right?
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We want to get prizes so we can compare apples to apples, but at the same time, we're going to say, hey, we need this, a grant to get one of these.
And unfortunately, this is a competitive grant, so first come, first serve.
Yeah.
That's right.
It
you
just
gotta
needs
look
to
fast.
get done without a specific company.
Yeah. And we just needed to know how much.
Yeah,
And
Which
that-
he
that's the
did a-
one thing I didn't really care about with permit eyes, is be like, well, I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know.
but he did give it the next day.
Yeah.
He gave the version of it, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of customization on there, and that's why he was struggling, because it really does depend. And that customization is gonna be is gonna be the most costly.
And the only way that you can do that is by actually using the program. You can't think ahead, because you can't envision what the
Well,
problem
you know
is.
somewhat of
Yeah,
an
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
You can envision your process.
Right.
I mean, that's what, you have
But
to do that.
But in the process, you'll be able to customize it better.
Right, but even still, there was a bunch of things that needed to be customized
Mhm.
even before he set it up. That's
Yep.
part of their setup is
Yep.
their, he needs to customize it. And I just want to point out that my previous job was envisioning the process and making it happen. That's what professionals do.
And I've been through 3 computer upgrades, and every time I say, I'll never do this again, and there we are,
Oh.
3 years down the road, doing it all over again
know.
because it's outmoded.
Yep,
But that's life.
unfortunately, right?
Yep, not fun. But anyway, it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. You know, and the part about all the other departments, let's say, we didn't necessarily need to tie in with Carrie's office, but she could be put on the, you need to check this list. Remember, there was ways for them to
Right.
and then let's say conservation would be notified, her office, and then she could send an email. I mean, it's imperfect, it's not,
It would have to be an approval. It would go for her for approval,
right,
and she would have to check her email and go in there and.
or
yeah,
whatever
I
it is.
approve.
But
Boom.
she has access to the system, so it's not even her email, she just has access to the system, she gets notified. All of us can have an account, he said.
Right.
You can have like numerous, unlimited users, but it won't be for her department, it'll be for your department. And then it'll be notifying conservation, and then we can, however we communicate with you guys and say, no, there's wetlands, we need to be involved, or whatever. Oh, yeah, that's right, because remember he showed
You
us,
put
I
in
could
his
actually write a
text.
little note.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
put texts in there.
You put a little text, yeah, I could just write a little
And all the
note.
texts are timestamped and everything. and
Yeah,
just-
it's very
you
cool.
document it, Yeah.
So even that little participation, without it actually tying into the whole financial system, it's not bad. It's kind of a,
Which protects us, because if we send something to one of the applicants and they say, no, I never received that, you go look at it and timestamp, yeah, you received on this and this date, and you actually commented to it, it saves it all with that link,
oh, yeah.
so. we're not going through all these emails and stuff
Or sticky notes.
or sticky notes to try to figure out.
And filing cabinets.
Right?
So I think we're all in agreement that we need to do something like this.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
which one do we use?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be good to look at something else, right, just to compare. And if BJ doesn't like it, why? Like,
It'd be nice to get her in. and
Yeah.
Why doesn't
Tell us
she like
why,
it?
that's fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Good. So we're waiting for a new demo, right? Just
Yeah.
finish this up. Payroll.
Payroll. I will make a motion that we approve the payroll for Jill in the amount of $270, $252, and $292.50.
Second,
All in favor?
Drew King, aye.
Ed Longigan, aye.
David Dufresne, aye?
Rich Ihacker, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
I make a motion we approve and sign the 7/31/22 invoices for O'Reilly, Talbot, and Oaken in the amount of $1,234.60 and $924.60.
Second,
All in favor?
Drew King, aye.
Ed Longigan, aye.
David Dufresne, aye?
Rich Ihacker, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
I make a motion we approve and sign the expense sheet in the amount of $8 for the United Postal Service for certified mail for special permit number 303, notice of hearing.
Second,
All in favor?
Drew King, aye.
Ed Longigan, aye.
David Dufresne, aye?
Rich Ihacker, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
I make a motion we approve and sign the expense sheet in the amount of $8 for the United Postal Service for certified mail for special permit number 300.
Second,
All in favor?
Drew King, aye.
Ed Longigan, aye.
David Dufresne, aye?
Rich Ihacker, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
Okay, I make a motion.
Minutes.
I make a motion we approve and sign the August 2022 minutes.
Second,
All in favor?
Drew King, aye.
Ed Longigan, aye.
David Dufresne, aye?
Rich Ihacker, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye. Now we go into comments and concerns. Do you have any comments or concerns?
Not today.
No one on Zoom.
Concerned it's my dinner time.
The only concern I have is we need to get the, this thing on, the meetings on the website sooner.
Oh, the posting or?
Yeah. Because, you know, people plan ahead and they just look at it. So, we really, it was, when did you post it today, right?
Yeah, I sent an email Thursday because there was last minute changes, and I
You could-
stayed
you could
late to
just
post
say-
it, and I didn't have
you
time,
could
I
just
had to
post
go.
Planning board on this date at 7:15 without
Without the agenda?
information, because.
Oh, yeah, I have no problem doing that.
Let me put you the example. My wife will say, what are we doing next week? She will check. She will go to the town website, oh, you don't have a meeting, so we can do something. Okay? And that's my case, but, you know, people do plan ahead.
Yeah, you just put the calendar events saying that we have a meeting this night at what time, Zoom meeting such and such.
Agenda to be
Yeah,
And
and it
then
is
you
on,
attach the agenda
for
after.
the occasional times it doesn't get on, it is on the site every second and fourth is the general unless we say otherwise, so that one was slipped because of the other two. But I can go ahead and put it for 3 years down the road, every
Yes,
second
yes.
and fourth.
Yes, do it because, you know, people get used to.
The only problem is if we can't, well, to get up and cancel it,
I
but
mean,
yeah.
we have so
Yeah.
many people here today, but it is,
Somebody did email me, wanted to know if there was a meeting and what the agenda was, so I sent it to
I get
them.
text messengers all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And the first thing I go online and I don't see it, I'm scratching my head and I'm, okay, then I go back to the notes and, yeah, we have one, but. So, yeah, please do so, put it for the next 3 years.
Okay.
Sure, why not?
As long as
Let's
Derek's on
do
the
3
board.
months.
All right, we'll start with,
Start with the rest of the year.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
Any comments? Nobody in Zoom.
Nobody in Zoom.
Just recorded.
Just us.
For the business. We have to pick a date for Feel it?
Yep.
What is,
You suggested the 24th, I'm suggesting that that's October 24th?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, October,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm looking, I'm like, wait a
I must-
second.
I
I was
had
gonna
a-
ask that, because, yeah,
originally I put October 10th to 24th, but the 10th is a holiday, so.
okay.
So then when I
We're not meeting
deleted
on
it, I
Saturday, the
deleted the
24th.
October, yeah. So October 24th gives,
Okay.
it's United Nations Day. Can we meet on United
Yes.
Nations Day?
Why not?
Oh, jeez.
They're not gonna come to the meeting.
Can we make that a federal holiday?
Sure.
We could make it a town holiday, right?
We make it anything we want.
I think it's March. We don't
When
have-
I was at school, we created the Day of the Pencil.
Day
Day of the
pencil.
pencil.
Yeah, so we had a holiday. And it's like, we're not coming tomorrow, teacher. How come? It's the Day of the Pencil.
August and March have holidays.
So October 24th.
Yep.
See, when is our next meeting?
September 26th. it
September
says.
26th.
Oh,
What?
and so.
Oh, wait, back on the date, do you have to motion it, or is it
No.
just
No.
the 24th it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I did talk to Stephen from OTO about, the Beaman Road, items they wanted to do. So, we can talk about, he'll be on the agenda, Nick will be on the agenda, for the 26th.
Okay.
Yep, we already know.
Okay.
Do a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Drew King, aye.
Ed Longigan, aye.
David Dufresne, aye.
Richi Hacker, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
You just did that because your stomach is rumbling.
My stomach told me it's time. We're adjourned, Travis.
What is O and S?